Hey guys, so I'm just going to do a stream with a bit of a study on fabric. So I haven't delved too much into fabric yet in my studies. So I'm just going to see what happens with that, and we'll just figure some stuff out on the fly. I have some ideas, but I'll just start with telling you a little bit about fabric that I do know. This might be going over it for people that already know stuff or who are exceedingly better at it than me. But let's just take a look at it. So there's something called a pipe fold, which is, a pipe. Well, sorry, I'm not coordinated yet. I'm just starting up. So I just gotta figure out which way everything's tilted and stuff. Okay, let's coordinate. 1, 2. Why is this one coming down? Because this is angled this way. Okay, so if I come across this way, there we go. It's because my tablet's not. It's just in a weird position. Okay, and then there's the C2. A1. What about D3? Can I get that? Yeah, okay. Okay. Boom. Okay, got it. Okay, so pipe folds. It's just a pipe. Where essentially, you have a sort of darker side of the pipe and a lighter side of the pipe. So a lot of folds are literally just pipe folds. So say you have a point here and a point here and they're being pinched or something, it's going to create either a pipe fold directly across where there's going to be a darker side under like one part, or alternatively, if this has some force sort of pushing it directly down this way, then the pipe fold is going to be here, and then it's going to tighten up more towards the edges, and you're going to have like a descent on this side of the, or wherever the lighting's coming from, or whatever the opposite. But you could have then, another sort of pipe fold coming from this as well. That might do something like this. And you have this sort of thing going on. But then it eventually turns into a different kind of fold, which is when it goes here, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm not gonna go this way anymore. Where it comes down like that or whatever, and potentially the slack is taken up by another pipe fold over this way. And then, this, and then you've got like this aspect of the cloth, and then maybe you'll have another pipe fold coming down, and yeah, it'll just be more of a straight pipe fold, and you got this darker side of it, whatever. And so sometimes you'll get folds like this. What's going on here? This is forward, and then this is, I think this is even sort of a pipe sort of thing. Anyways, something like that, and then like this might come in or something. And it chooses its side, or I don't know. So I haven't studied very much, but essentially there's this kind of diaper fold. I don't know how it works. Pipe fold. Then you've got something called like a zigzag fold, where essentially you'll have a piece of cloth, something will pinch it off on this direction, and so then it'll crumple up this way. So you'll have like a main body there, and then it crumples off, and then have a main body here, and then like it'll get little whatever, and then it'll crumple off, and then another something here, and then it will like whatever. So there's that, and I think the way that that's typically shown is like a zigzag fold is maybe with like 2 triangles, I think, where you have one which is the down plane, where this one's coming over, and maybe there's even like a little pipe foldy thing in there, and then there's this one which catches more of the light, and then this is going across here or something. I don't know. Maybe that still has a bit of whatever. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. No idea. But there's a zigzag fold. There's like pipe folds, and there's like these sort of curvy folds where other stuff happens, you know, like in these sections, as well as when it's changing direction. All right, so, and then you've got things called spiral folds, where they spiral around a point of tension. So, like on the shoulders or something. I don't know. It's just some sort of spiral. I don't really know much about that. But anyways, then there's also another thing like just like a pressing fold. Like if you push in on the edges of something, then it has to give way and crumple or whatever it's going to do, because it's got more like bunching or something. So like at the bottom of clothing, like say there's a t-shirt or something, there's going to be like these bulges that do stuff because you know, there's more fabric than is needed to cover the thing. So there's that thing too. So maybe you just start with these 5 and figure stuff out. But I don't want to really start there with the study. I wanted to start somewhere even simpler than that, which is just starting with a form. And I think the simplest form here is to just start with a sphere. And then we just start with... what do you think is better? Is it going to be a strip of fabric that's going to give us a piece of information, a triangle of fabric, a square of fabric, and even a circle of fabric, or a cross of fabric, whatever, right? So, and then just testing what they do when you pass them over this form. And then that's going to tell you a lot about how any form is going to deform different parts of the fabric. Because like I showed in the diaper fold, it, like as it stems away from the pipe fold, which is simple, it then turns into something much more reactive, where everything's connected and pulling on each other and stuff like that. So like there's tension that's held through the fabric itself, and everything is connected. Like wind has low pressure systems and high pressure systems. There seems to be like high pressure systems and low pressure systems in the clothing, but we'll get to that. Okay, so let's also put this on a plane. So, you know, now we know it's here, and the light source is coming from this direction. All right, so if we place I'll just do this in layers. If we place a strip over this, bop. Pretty simple. It's just going to go down. And say it gets to the bottom. What would happen if it hits the bottom? It can curve off, right? Or potentially it can also do another thing. Let's put another strip on here where it comes across. If this is put on at an angle, then this is going to come away from the sphere itself because this is holding to the sphere's form, right? So the one that's on the balance point is the one that's going to hold. So this one's going to come up, right? Because it's not holding to the form. I don't know if it's going to come up that much, but... And then it might come back down or whatever. But then say there is extra fabric here. It has to basically come out, doesn't it? Like, it's probably gonna, like, as it hits here, it has to come out first. Because that way it's leaning into the sphere rather than, say, if it didn't come out there, then it would have to, the strip would have to come away from the sphere so that then it could have this inwards curve. Like, okay, so you've got this, and then if you have a strip coming along here, and if it was to come out, I mean, if it was to go in, it would have to come out first. So either this part of the thing would have to come out first and then come in order to do this kind of curve. So sometimes that's actually going to happen, like say on a torso or something, right? The torso, whatever. The shirt's going to come along, but then it might drift off the body. Like it might do like this curve off the body before then slinking back in. So if you have like a waistband, right? And then you've got like this crinkle on the waistband or whatever, it's coming out from the body and then back in again, which kind of implies there's like almost a likely puff somewhere, which is coming off the main body rather than connecting to it directly. So it's suggesting there's like an air pocket or something there, or like an inflation. Okay, so this is inflation, and this is like, if it just comes straight out, like it comes out first, then this is deflation, like where it just stays tight. And then maybe what it will do is then it will bound after hitting or whatever, because there's friction along this surface, right? So if you have a strip, it's going to follow this kind of rule of like coming out and then coming in and then coming up and down like this. So here, and it's going to come down, and then you're going to get this cut off or whatever, and then it's going to come here, and then it's going to come over and down, right? That's what's going to happen. Or there's going to be the opposite, where this strip is going to come off the thing and then bound back in, and then you could have something where it's just bunching a lot. From that position, so it's came away and then maybe you have to show like the shadow here that it's come away from the main form, so that you can see that it's not on the main form anymore, while this has like tighter shadows to it or whatever. And say like someone's, I don't know, you could make an explanation of this like a tie. Say there's like a tie or whatever, and someone's doing up their tie, and there's like a hand here or whatever, and this is coming out and then back or whatever. And so you've got like the hand here or whatever, like someone's doing the tie for them. But say you got that shadow there and shadow along here, but then like this comes back, might come back towards the person. As you know, someone else is grabbing the tie the other way or whatever. And then this could eventually make its way back. Maybe another bend or something, I don't know. Maybe not quite like that, but whatever. And then you could get the shadow meeting again. Because when you're too far away from something, you're not really going to get shadow. But whatever. And then I don't know. I didn't quite get that, but I'm just thinking that say you have a tie, and then the tie comes out, and then it might come back in like this. Like that's just kind of what ties do, right? Like they come out from the body because of like, I don't know, there's tension here or something, and so it doesn't necessarily strictly stick to you. And then as it gets friction or just from movement or whatever, it comes out from the body and then reapplies to it. Like maybe a ribbon. A ribbon's better. So we say there's a ribbon. You've got like a bow tie kind of like thing or whatever. Bow tie thingy, whatever. Like some sort of pipe foldy type thing along here. And along here, whatever. And this ribbon comes out and then it comes back. Comes out and then it comes back. This one might also come out and then come back. So that's interesting. There's like different things to play with there where you look at that and say like, oh, okay. Like now this ribbon's doing this thing. Okay. And then there's shadow along there and then it's going to come out and drop back. Okay, cool. So ribbons are going to do this kind of thing where they do come out from the main body. But they're also going to do things like this, like things that are heavier or have more adhesion or whatever, they're going to do this. But things that are more light or whatever are going to do more like that sort of thing. So, and how many folds is also going to depend on how thick the material is. So for example, if it's super light, then yeah, you could have something that's like just whipping back and forth like this. But if it's heavy, it's got to like do this kind of thing, right? Where it's gonna bunch up, but it's like, don't bend me too much. Like paper. See, like paper, you fold it once, you fold it twice, but by the time you fold it 7 times, you can't fold it anymore. And that's like, there's a certain curvature that it won't want to pass. So say something like a jumper or a sweater, the curvature is like this, right? Or like the curve of how much it wants to change by is always going to be like mild. Like it's not going to want to change by this amount, which is thinner fabric, right? like this is a very thin sort of ribbon that can do that. And so maybe even the way that you're drawing these things and the amount of bends or designs that you have in it is going to describe things. So say if you did like even hair, right? And then the hair came down and then it had like way more waviness. That's like, that hair has to be thin. It has to be thin because otherwise it wouldn't bend that quick. Or for example, just a fringe. This denotes thinness, right? Or it might denote thinness. So maybe that's what's happening in eyelashes. Like the reason you put like something up here is actually to make it thin. It denotes thinness because you're getting this sharper idea of a turn or something. So like maybe even like a little thing here. Like maybe that's just saying like, yeah, that's actually thin. Instead of having like these cumbersome curves. And also with this, nothing's ever going to be at its maximum peak sort of bridging potential, is it? It's going to sometimes have like a deformed lump or whatever first, and then these are going to be the peaks. So that's something about fabric to know, because then this might come across here, and then you might have like a fabric thing here, and then might drop off there. So like if fabric was over a triangle or something, then you know it's going to perform more like that. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. So we're starting to understand, at least I'm starting to understand some things here just from going about this strip, which is cool. So we've done the strip. Now what about the triangle? So let's just say, all right, let's put the triangle over the other side, like the peak of it, and then this is coming wider. And as it gets to this halfway point, you know, it has to come away because by definition, this part, the part that's most connected to it, this has to gain like some distance away from this sphere here, like as it's coming along here, because say maybe this strip along here can conform to the sphere, but as it goes wider, these are kind of like lost edges, right? Where these lost edges have to come off. And so you'll have this main bit that stayed there, and then these parts have come away. Like they've come away more. So they're probably going to curve and do this, right? This is going to come out before it comes back in because the triangular shape is forcing this off. It's forcing it off. So it kind of like forces it to be like that ribbon example, right? And then this part, because it's adhering to this, it's going to stay there for a bit before it then comes off or something like that. So then you can have that, and then you can have that, and there you go, this triangle thing on your whatever. And that's going to apply plenty of times because say for example a seam might not be rectangular, right? A seam on like someone's shoulder or something, say this is like the seam, then, there's going to be one part that's conforming to that shoulder curve, but then another part's going to be coming off. And then it's going to buckle in, do that billowing thing. And this part might want to come out like this, but it can't. And so maybe that's going to pull everything across in order to conform with this one. So you end up getting some sort of pull that pulls it across this way, and then it does that after the fact. And like a bulge there or something. I don't know. So if you connect two pieces of fabric together, it's going to change the dynamics dramatically. If a piece of fabric is coming off the main form, like it's coming on like this diagonal or something, while there's another one connecting here, it's probably going to come off. So that's interesting. I'm just thinking, like, how would I then study these seams? Those seams seem rather complicated. Yeah, I'll just do edges later in the study. I don't think there's much more to say about triangles. Well, there is, isn't there? Because if a triangle comes over the top of something, we just say, okay, it's gonna come over the top of this. Like, it's not yet on this thing. Then these parts, like what are they? The vertices, they're gonna go straight down. So, like, the vertices are gonna go straight down. And these other parts, they're not going to agree. So maybe you're going to get like this sort of thing going on. Where it comes away from the main form. So this part is essentially going to do this. And that's going to do that. And this is going to do that. But it doesn't necessarily have to do that because... But it probably will. Because these points can move towards each other. Even just slightly, and it's going to deform or bow the central form. So you can have something like this, and if you change the angle of the triangle to here, then all of a sudden you're going to have like a bow in the thing, right? Where this one's pushing in, all of a sudden it's created, at least a wave in the fabric. That's gonna be like doing whatever it's doing. It's gonna be creating that wave, and then you've got like this other thing back here. So, and like even up top here, say you could have it conforming, but then maybe it might bow out, might come out. Just interesting. But is it going to remain straight when something bends, like a pipe? Or can it have more curvature and stuff? Because doesn't that add like 3 dimensions to it? Like a third dimension to it. So in a sense, maybe it makes like the easiest thing is to get rolls. And like even from like this triangle, this is a roll. So that's simple. But say you get like another force, whether that be a twist or something else that causes like this bulgy thing, like here, it's gonna add complexity. So, so here, you've got like this triangle coming down, like whatever way, and then we've got this thing doing this for whatever reason. Maybe because this is being pushed up or something. This will happily conform where it is. This over here will happily conform where it is, and it'll just come off when it's past the halfway point. Same here. But this part that's coming off here and doing this, if it's doing it before its time or whatever, and it's getting a little bit of shade here, and then its shade is dropping off after here, then this is probably going to connect, because you've created a high pressure system. Like whatever it is that's causing this to rise, whatever it is, it's like you've created an artificial lump here. And that artificial lump is then going to follow rules too. And it will conform to that lump until it comes off. And it might come in before it does, or it might come over. And then it might come in. Okay, so things can either go in or they can go out. And I think fabric doesn't really care which way it goes. It just has to go a specific way. And in one scenario versus another, it will do one or the other. So you could have this which comes out and then back. And if this one's conforming right down, then then this is actually probably going to create a channel, right? And then that's going to drop and have a main curve. And then if this is a triangle, see, I don't know, like that's curving in there or whatever, then this is going to create a groove, right? I don't know, something like that. So you've got like this bell shape, which then turns off like this. That's fascinating. Okay. And then if you've got this thing coming off here, if you've got this, maybe it's going to pull this across. Because this bell shape is going to create a looping thing here or something. I don't know. That's so weird. Alright, so can it do that bell shape thing, or is maybe that Bit too exaggerated. But that's super interesting. Just that shape, that out, and then in, and then belling around. Like, that's just an interesting shape. And you've got this sort of thing coming off. Then there's one belling around. That's interesting. Because, say you've got frills or something that go with that kind of, I don't know, whatever. Like hats do that, right? Cowboy hats, skirts. Like this could be a skirt, right? And then, I don't know, you got this kind of like fancy tail or whatever that's doing its thing. So maybe a lot of fabric like design actually comes from the way that folds interact with shapes and forms. Like it's not so much about like the specific way that we see it, but it's more about like the rhythms that connect into these forms and how the fabric then behaves when interacting with a form. Because then you get these cool flowing interesting curves. Like this triangle, like, well, whatever. If it's just a normal triangle, it's just like whatever. But you add this little bulge right there, which for me was just theoretical, where it's like, oh, you know, what if it just comes out a bit? And then all of a sudden, this is just telling the fabric to do things, which then creates this. What is that? That curve, along with this curve. Fascinating curves that are just interesting and tell you a lot about fabric. Like, for example, this could be a shirt. You know, you have like a vest, and this is someone's sleeve. Like, absolutely, someone's sleeve could do that, where it just pops out and comes off, and then it has this weird bell curve, and then on the inside of the armpit, it's got this strong added curve like that, and it's just going to look like that. Like, yeah, you could just have like, oh, look, he's wearing a shirt, whatever. And then this one comes over, and then it comes under, and then whoop, now we've got this bell curve. And this one comes in and under. Oh, this one's, I don't know, doing this. And yeah, then you've got like this curvy whatever. Very puffy kind of shirt thing, but that sort of thing could happen. I don't know. So it's felt like making him a model, a stupid model, with his puffy shirt. I don't know. I think it's a little bit too complicated for me to right now understand all the different little pockets of energy and high pressure and low pressure and stuff. So I'm just gonna leave that. I'll let my brain think on it, you know? All right, so now let's think of a cube. The difference between a cube and a triangle is it adds. So a triangle. Ugh. Okay, so like a triangle, you can move one point closer to another, right? And you only get one distortion. Mainly. Like, and then it's going to be like this. So it's going to be like a simple, like conical distortion or something. But when you use a square, you're going to get, like when this bends in, you can potentially get two conical distortions where this one is bending this way, this one is bending this way, whatever. Because how did you get these sides to be narrower? And essentially, if this remains stable, or even if it moves, but it moves less than, like it moves less than one of these sides, or half their sides, or whatever, total of their sides, then it means that this is moved in. Then this hasn't moved as much as these. And if these move more, if the outside sides move more than this cross-section side, then it's not just one thing. But I think that's almost always the case. Like even if you have two sides and then they remain perfectly square, but then this one moves across this way, then literally the only way that this can happen for this side to remain the same, what is it? It has to go like this or whatever. And then like this one, I don't know. Let's just go underneath and just make it like have, oh god, that's actually really complicated. Gosh. So you have two exact sides connected to each other. I know this is like solving math problems. It's really annoying. But say if this moves, what is the max it can move actually? What is the maximum that can move? Because it seems rather simple if you just like move the outsides. But I think if this moves, it means this has to move. So if this is moved off center, then this has to move off center this way. I think this is the easiest way to solve it. Because then there's a point here, but this is moved just as much. So this is almost perfectly going to be straight, but then this one is going to have the major fold in it, right? And that's going to have like maybe even a bell curvy type thing, whatever. Or it might have some bumps before it reaches this. And so you might have like a bend and a bend, whatever. And here's like the main force or whatever. Cool. And then there's a bend and a bend and a bend to there. So, okay. So this is interesting. I didn't see that with triangles before, but this will also happen with triangles. Like if you sort of, oh wait, let's do a triangle this way. Where if you narrow the triangle a bit, then this is going to gain where it's going to get that those little bell curves. Or whatever. Interesting. So you can get something like this, cool. Even though this is pulled tight, and you know, realistically, it's probably not going to be like this. Will probably bunch up a bit, and then you'll get like an actual little sort of ripple before it does this, or a flick at the end, you know. Where it'll actually have some form itself before being pulled across. But that's interesting. So, yeah, square's not that complex now that I think about it. But then you have other things where if 2 points move closer to one another, okay, so I've got a square, and if this point moves closer to this point, or this point moves closer to this point, then both these sides need to bend, or all four sides need to bend in order to make up for that. So if we just take this, I know I'm like thinking a bit fast here, but say we just take one side, then that means this side and this side is bent. But if you were to come here, for example, then only one side bends. So this would remain straight. So these, but this one would have to bend. So, you know, it will have its bends in it or whatever, like it have like a bunch of added fabric or whatever. But this, you know, and then it could do this, like a tidal wave, right? And then maybe this, like have a smaller secondary curve, like that. And, you know, it's just one side, because this has been pulled down or whatever. This has been pulled across. Like you've pulled this tip from here to here, and then this side has deformed as a result, because now it's the same as pushing in this side. That's interesting. It's so interesting. Like you move this side and say everything, none of this is deformed. It's the same as pushing in this side. All right. But then you can change that where you don't have it on one side. Oh my God. So you don't have it on one side. It just comes in here. And if it does that, then there's going to be extra fabric on both sides. There's not going to be a ton of fabric up by the head though. It's going to be more fabric like at the base. There's going to be more fabric at the base. I don't know if it's gonna like mound over in the middle or something. I don't know. That's so weird. Ugh. Oh, that's painful. Yeah, this is an annoying part of it. So if this comes in, I think the easiest thing is just to do like a step ripple type thing, like this. So that you have this, but then it's tucking underneath like a step so that it's pushed in like that. Because that's what it's going to do, right? If you push this in, it can no longer maintain this perimeter. It has to lose some of its extension. If it doesn't, then it's going to be pulled to one side or the other, and then you will see like what we see over here. So this is kind of correct in that it's creating a step fold kind of thing. And this could come over the main thing, like it could fold over this way. And you could have that just be straight, like it doesn't have to have like a diapery fold or anything like that. It could just be doing this kind of thing. But this would obviously be up, or it could be folding over the top or whatever. And then if you twist this, if you position this differently, it could fold a little bit differently. You could eventually get this to deform out to this, and then maybe it's got like this sort of thing going on, where maybe this one has like a few more folds in it, but then it scrunches in, and then like that gets to there. So you'd be getting like a curtainy fold, but it would just be on that side of, like, this would create a triangle. So this side of the square would kind of like be divided into a triangle because it's rotating around, and then you can kind of, so that then this is going to break into these kind of folds. So it's either a step fold or it's like these triangle folds, triangle pipe folds, or a combination between those two. Okay. And then if you actually bring both sides in, it depends. Like, are you gonna like bring them in from the center? Because if you bring them in from the center, they might just do that step fold thing, but then maybe it's like these curtain folds because you twist it or something. And then these curtain folds, I don't know, do their thing, but then follow around that central tension. Say, I don't know, let's just practice this with 3. Here you can get these curtain foldy type things, and then you might get like a corner, right? But then it's going into curtain foldy things, and then you get like another corner, And then, I don't know, another corner or something. Ugh. There's going to be like these curtain foldy things going on because you pull them in and then they're all essentially doing this. They're all essentially coming in, but they're coming in on one side and not the other. And so you get like this weird spirally vortexing. I wonder if that's what water's doing as well. Like if you have like a vortex of water, it's not just that there's a vortex coming in to the water, but there's actually these pipe folds that are happening as well. Where you have that main mass coming off, but then everything else is sort of bending back and forth. And you kind of like losing these corners, and they're doing like this curtainy folds type thing, like this sort of thing. So you get like this sort of darker spot in here, and then a darker spot in here, and a darker spot in here, because you're getting these rolls, right? And you get a little dark spot there, and a little dark spot along there, and like as this thing is churning around the center, it's pulling like threads, but they're just more elastic than say fabric, so the central parts can move more instead of that. Yeah, laminar flow, right? So laminar flow is going to make all the things move similarly, but you can pull on this and extend this, and it doesn't necessarily mean that this has to be pulled further, or only like it's going to be less obvious than fabric. So yes, water will do this, but it's only going to do it a portion of the same as fabric's going to do it. Okay, cool. So liquid fabric is also going to act differently than like different sizes of fabric. Like you're going to have thick fabric, which is going to like boop. And then, you know, thinner fabric, you know, you can get more bends in it. Like super thin liquid is also going to be able to do this kind of thing, right? Thicker liquid is going to do more like that. But then the fold natures of like liquid versus the fold natures of fabric are going to be different. So this is going to be much more slidey and like a sliding scale, and this is going to be a strict scale. So maybe a problem with fabric is if you bend it wrong, and maybe this is also a feature, you can turn it into a fluid. So if you do these bends wrong, it's going to become like a fluid, and if you do it right, it's going to remain to its strictest nature. But if it's elastic, it's going to be somewhere in between. So you're going to have strict fabrics, elastic fabrics, and fluids. And they're going to behave differently. Now the circle over the circle, if we've got a circle, and we put a circle over the circle, then it just matters how big the circle is. So if the circle is, say if the circle is smaller than this, it's going to cup over it pretty well. Except this outer part is going to get either looser or I think it's going to get looser or whatever. Just like, I don't know, depending on the thickness of the thing. So if it's very thick, it's only going to have one bell in the entire thing, right? Like it's gonna have like this capping effect. If it's much thinner, like a silk or something, that will then have like little ripples. I don't know. It'll come over and a little ripple and over a little ripple and little ripple as it sort of doesn't quite fit or comes off the thing or whatever. And then, I mean, it's gonna have to come off, right? Because, I don't know, so when you take something that's a circle and then you push, it can keep a straight line, right? It can. Does it? How does that work mathematically? So like what is the section of a cone? Like, okay, so to make a cone is like a triangle, right? And then you attach this side and you attach that side, whatever, and then it's gonna make, oh my god, I'm thinking about conics here. There's parabolics as well, right? So parabolas. Oh god, how does this work? So you have parabola. So like, if you submerge a cylinder underwater, right, you've got the cylinder, then essentially the part that it's cutting off here is a hemisphere thingy, but then there's like a parabola where it's connecting to its thing, right? You get this parabola shape. This is going to be true of fabric too, right? So you're going to get these parabolic curves where you get these sections of cones, right? Like a pipe fold or whatever. Like if a pipe fold then straightens out in all directions or whatever, you're going to get these parabolics. So these little hems, like these little hemmed edges, are going to be parabolics that essentially are semi-cones or semi-cylinders or whatever. And then they're going to have rounded edges where they disappear into below the surface of whatever's the surface tension. So there's going to be, okay, so there's going to be a surface tension to fabric. Like this just naturally has a surface tension. And then there's going to be breaks to the surface tension. And then there will be, say, before it equalizes into the surface tension, there'll be these parabolics that meet into the fabric. Okay. Right. And so say if something is going to breach off the form, the main form, it has to break surface tension. It has to have enough force on it that it breaks surface tension and then gets its bell or whatever. And then that's going to create parabolics. Wherever it does that, it's going to create parabolics. Or hyperbolics if it's the other way. Right, so these aren't just random curves. It's hyperbola, parabola. So like even here where we've got these two parabolas, there might be somewhat of a hyperbolic effect somewhere because of this. So yeah, that's interesting. And then also with this parabola, if we're thinking about like, okay, how a circle goes on top of a circle, Good God. If a circle goes on top of a circle, some parts of the circle are going to turn into an oval shape. They're not going to be any longer the circle shape, which is kind of like a right angle, right? They're going to be more obtuse than that. They're going to be more obtuse than a right angle. So you might have had a right angle there, but it's going to be more obtuse. Then you're going to get an oval curve, and then you're going to have fold. And then maybe it's going to come back to a circle again. But then, because you've upset the perimeter, then maybe there's going to be like a fold on the opposites. Like if this conforms, say like there's a main part that conforms directly to the circle, then maybe this just lifts off, and then this is also kind of like a thing where it's not connected anymore. Would you ever get like two oval shapes interlapping, like into like a little, I don't know, hazelnut thing, and then have like a main circular shape, and then like these folds doing this? Would you have that? Would that happen? Would that happen? Would that ever happen? Because if that happened, wouldn't that say that this is essentially, like, it couldn't happen like that, right? Because you've got the limit of the circle defined by this edge. So when would it turn into an oval? I think just along a portion of a curve, like a portion of it might turn into an oval, but then it's going to have to, like, there's going to be another section that just turns into like the actual circle thing. Oh, okay, so only relative to the amount of fold. So if there's say 3 folds on this, then there will be 3 slightly less than circular aspects that turn into, like, you know, ovals or whatever. Okay, so I think that's what happens. Is that essentially when you push on a circle, you probably create an axis where there is something pulling on it, which causes this oval to form, but it doesn't actually form into an oval. It instead chooses a point to fold. Like, I don't know if this is true yet, but that's going to be equal to the amount that this sort of reduced or whatever. And so maybe you'll have like a second fold here or something. Whatever. I don't know. I'll have to think about that and like investigate it. See how that happens and what happens to a circle when you push up through it. I don't know what happens. I think I might actually look at that in real life to figure out what the heck is going on there. I don't think I need to do this one, and I'll do seams later. I think that's enough for now, because I'm busting to go to the loo. But yeah, I hope that was interesting. And yeah, that's a bit of a short study on fabric. So take care and have fun. Have fun learning. All right, bye.